Yeah, hi, I'm Chuck. I'm one of the trainers here at Northstar Bus Lines. Today we're going to go over part of the pre-trip process for doing a pre-trip on a school bus. First of all, as you're walking up to your bus, approach your bus, unlatch the left side hood latch. You're going to walk to the bus, get on the bus. If you have any items you're carrying, you want to get on the bus and place your items on the bus. But at this point, you're going to want to grab your broom and your rag. Unlatch the hood latch on this side. And when you're talking about the sides of the bus, if you're sitting in the driver's seat, the right side of the bus is always going to be on the right side. Left side of the bus is always on the left side. So if you're at the front of the bus doing part of your inspection, looking at the bus, this is always going to be the right side of the bus, no matter how you're looking at it. That's how the pre-trip is set up. So right now, we're going to do the right side of the bus under the hood inspection. First thing we start out with is that your radiator support struts are secured. Your air filter intake is clear of debris. The gasket's not loose or missing. Next, you're going to check all your hoses. All your hoses should be no leaks, no bulges. From there, you go to your fan belt. Your fan belt is tight. There's no cuts or frays. Next is your alternator. Your alternator is secured. The wiring on the back side is not broken or disconnected. After that, you're going to look down here, you're going to look at your water pump. Your water pump is going to be secured and not leaking. From there, you go over to your windshield washer fluid reservoir. You're going to make sure your cap is tight. You're going to check the level. Mine right now is just about full, and because it's a reservoir and has liquid in it, you're going to make sure it's not leaking. Next, you're going to start with your suspension. When you start your suspension, start with what's closest to you. You're going to talk about your shock absorber. Your shock absorber, you're going to make sure it's secured and it's not leaking from down here. This is a piston. It's filled with liquid, so again, making sure it's secured and it's not leaking. Next, you have your springs. These are your springs. You're going to make sure that your springs are secured, that there are no leaves missing, broken, or damaged. Next, you're going to talk about your spring mounts. Here, your spring mount's a little hard to see, but your spring mount up front is right here, and in the back, it's right here. You're going to make sure your spring mounts are secured, not damaged, and there's no missing or damaged bushings or bolts. From there, you're going to look at your U-bolts right here. You're going to make sure your U-bolts are secured, not damaged, and there's no missing or loose or damaged bolts. The bolts underneath, you can't see them from here, but you just got to check. U-bolts are secured, not damaged, no miss or loose or missing bolts. Next, you're going to talk about your brake lines and hoses right here. You're going to make sure that they're secured and not leaking, because they got brake fluid reservoir or brake fluid running through them. So you want to make sure they're not leaking. Next thing you're going to look at is your tie rod. Your tie rod is down here. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. You're going to want to make sure your tie rod is secured, and there's a cotter pin on top. You're going to want to make sure that cotter pin is in. Once you're done with all that, we're going to start checking our tire. We start checking our tire from the inside. We're going to make sure the inside sidewall is in good condition, no cuts, no bulges. Next, we're going to check the top of the tire. You're going to be looking for 4 things on the top of your tire. You're going to make sure the tread depth is a minimum of 4/32 of an inch. There's even wear on it. There's no damage. And on front tires, there cannot be retreads or recaps. Next, you're going to come down to your sidewall. You're going to check the sidewall of your tire. Make sure it's in good condition, no cuts or bulges. You're You're going to check to make sure the bead is fitted properly on the rim all the way around. Next, you're going to check your rim, make sure there's no welds, dents, or damage. After you check your rim, you're going to check your valve cap and stem. You're going to make sure that it's secured, it's not missing, broken, or damaged. Next, you're going to want to check your rotor and your disc surface. You can see it on the inside here. You're going to want to make sure your rotor and disc surface are smooth, no cracks, and no contaminants. If you can look up here, you're not going to be able to see it because your brake pad sits up in this area here. But you're going to look in there and you're going to see to make sure that your brake pad is no less than 1/4 of an inch thick. Next is your lug nuts. You're going to make sure your lug nuts, there's none loose and none missing. You're going to check your hub oil seal. Make sure your hub oil seal up front is not leaking excessively. And then the last thing on the right side of the bus, you're just going to check to make sure your tires are properly inflated. That's what you got your broom for. Just give it a quick thump, make sure that they're properly inflated. So that's the right side of the engine. Next thing, you're going to make sure you grab your broom and your rag, and you're going to go check the left side of the engine. Over here again, we're going to start with our radiator support struts, making sure that they're secured. From there, we're going to come all the way across. We're going to make sure that our wiring is all in good condition. Next, we're going to our brake fluid reservoir. You're going to make sure your cap is tight. You're going to check the level. You can see it here. It's between minimum and maximum. It's a fluid, so you want to make sure it's not leaking and that it's secured. Right below that is your master cylinder. You're going to want to make sure that that's secured and not leaking. Right off your master cylinder are your brake lines, your solid brake lines. You're going to want to make sure that they are secured and not leaking. Again, on this side, you're going to check all your hoses. Make sure there's no leaks, no bulges. Your coolant reservoir, radiator cap. You're going to make sure your cap is tight. You're going to check your level. Here on mine, you can see it's between the add and the max level. It's right in the middle. Again, it's reservoir, it's got liquid in it, so you're going to want to make sure it's not leaking. Next thing you're going to want to check is your fan belt. Make sure it's tight, no cuts, no frays. On top of your engine block, you got your oil fill cap. You want to make sure that that's secured. After you check your oil fill cap, you're going to want to check the oil level in your bus. You're going to check the oil level in your bus whenever the engine's not running and it's off. This is your oil dipstick. Give it a quick turn, pull on it. You pull your dipstick out. You can see it's got oil, but to properly check it, you got to wipe the oil off first. Reinsert it. Make sure it goes all the way in. Pull it back out. And it's just like checking the oil on your car, making sure that there's oil in it. You can see it's right at the full level. After you check your engine oil, you're going to check your transmission fluid. Normally you check your transmission fluid with the engine running and in neutral, but when you're doing your pre-trip, all you need to be doing is pulling your transmission dipstick out and making sure that there's transmission fluid on the stick, and you can see there is. But the proper way to check it, after you're done with your route, you're going to pull your bus over with the engine running, open your hood, pull it out, leave the transmission in neutral, pull the stick out and check it. From there, we're going to go to our power steering reservoir, which is right here. You're going to make sure your cap is secured. You're going to check your level. Right now, my level's at the max cold min hot level. You can see it there. And again, it's liquid. It's a reservoir. You're going to make sure it's not leaking. Next, you're going to start on your steering linkage. First thing you check on your steering linkage is your steering shaft, which is right here. You're going to make sure that it's secured. There's no bends in it. and there's no debris in these joints here. Your steering shaft goes right into your steering gearbox. This is a big metal unit. You're going to want to make sure that your steering box is secured. There's no cracks in it because it's got power steering fluid running into it. So no cracks and no leaks. Now you're going to check the remainder portions of your steering linkage. Right here you've got your pitman arm. You've got your drag link. You've got your knuckle, because it's shaped like a knuckle. You got your tie rod down here. And you got your center link, which runs from one tie rod to the other tie rod that we checked on the other side. It runs the length of the bus. The width of the bus, excuse me. All those items have pins in them. So you're going to want to make sure all those items are secured and all the pins are in. Once you're finished with all your steering linkage, you have the suspension on this side that's the exact same as on the other side. You're going to start with your shock absorber, making sure it's secured and again not leaking. Your springs down here. Again, your springs are all going to be secured. There's not going to be any leaves missing, broken, or damaged. Your spring mounts hold your springs to your frame. You got one here, you got one in the back. You're going to want to make sure your spring mounts are securely bolted to the frame. There's no missing or damaged bolts or bushings. Again, you got your U-bolts down here. Want to make sure they're secured, not damaged. No missing or loose bolts. Again, you got your brake lines and hoses here, making sure they're secured and not leaking. And then you're going to recheck the left side tire, just like we did on the other side. The inside of your tire is in good condition. The sidewall, good condition, no cuts, no bulges. The top of your tire, you're checking 4 things. Again, tread depth should be a minimum of 4/32 seconds. There should be even wear. There should be not any damage on the tire. And front tires, again, cannot be retreaded. You're going to come down to the sidewall. You're going to check that. Again, good condition, no cuts, no bulges. Your bead is sitted properly on the rim. Your rim, again, no welds, dents, or damage. Your valve cap and stem down here is going to be secured, not missing, broken, or damaged. And depending on the type of rim you have, this hole where the valve cap and stem comes out, inside you can see the rotor and disc surface. It should be smooth, no cracks and contaminants. What you can't see is your brake pad, because it's always going to be up here. But your brake pad, if you can't see it, you're going to say, if I could see my brake pad, it'd be no less than 1/4 inch thick. Again, lug nuts, none loose, none missing. We got these flags here. If any of these flags are turned in an opposite direction than the rest of them, it means you got a loose lug nut. So the flags just help you check all your lug nuts are tight. Again, your hub oil seal up front on your front tires cannot be leaking excessively. And then the last thing to check again is make sure your tires are properly inflated using your broom. And that's it for under the hood inspection for a school bus.